Welcome, I'm Rogers Anderson, Williamson County Mayor. And as we kind of travel around the county and look at the different departments that you have asked us to display and kind of explain a little bit about, we have the opportunity today to talk to Steve Martini. And Steve has been with us a couple of years, heads up our 911 center, does an outstanding job. And thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
So, as I've learned also over the years when we do these shows, people like to know who our directors are, where'd you come from, where'd you start, how'd you get involved in the profession that you're in?
Sure. Well, several years ago, it's been 15 years ago now, I worked looking for a job, had been laid off of the private sector and was living near Chattanooga, and I was looking for a job that sort of used my English and communications background, and there was an advertisement for a police dispatcher with the City of Chattanooga Police and Fire Departments, and I thought, here's a communications position. I'd been familiar from a journalism background to complete police reports and things like that. I'd been involved some with the public safety sector and thought that would be interesting. And that's what I did. I went and got that job and worked 5 years at the console as a police and fire dispatcher. And that environment consolidated 911 centers. They put 9 centers into one down there. And so I joined a training team for another 5 years or so, teaching dispatchers and helping them grow. And I wound up over here with the city of Brentwood for about 3 years as they worked to bring a civilian dispatch supervisor into their environment. And when the opportunity came for Williamson County and Franklin to consolidate centers, I thought it'd be a great challenge and a great opportunity. I think it's the right thing for the citizens, so I threw my hat in the ring for the opportunity, and I'm blessed to have been given that assignment for the last 3 years.
You made a kind of a tongue-in-cheek comment that you thought that would be a good challenge for you. Has it lived up to its expectations?
It is absolutely a challenge. It is a challenge every day. I remember, seeing it up close, but I saw it from a different perspective when we consolidated those centers in Hamilton County. From a training perspective, operationally, watching that move. But I did not have the opportunity to see just some of the political opportunities and partnerships with industry partners, with our cities and our county as we merge those together. So I've seen that from a different angle, and really it's just been the more I grow, the longer I'm here, the more I realize I have that much more to learn and opportunities to seek out new things.
Steve, kind of thumbnail or amount of time you need to explain how the 911 centers are funded, why they are there. A lot of people would think the 911 centers are just an extension of government, of local government.
Sure.
And why do we have 911 centers in a lot of our cities? Some counties hardly have but one. It kind of explain that whole format so people can better understand it.
Sure. Well, in the 1980s, when the 911 number came along, there was a discussion to deliver 911 into communication centers, dispatch centers, funded by the users. So there was a structure that put 911 surcharges is built into everybody's phone bill, regardless of your carrier. It's a flat rate of, in Tennessee, $1.16 per line per month that helps fund the delivery of that 911 call from your phone to the nearest police or public safety communication center in your area. Prior to that, back to the 40s, police and fire and EMS have all been dispatched by radio at the city or county level by police officers or firefighters, and it wasn't really until the 80s that civilians started doing that job. So it's partially funded, the delivery of the call and the call answering by that surcharge, but at that point they agreed that those folks created the fund that says 911 will fund the delivery of the call and maybe the call answering, but the counties and the cities are already providing the radio dispatch portion and have been doing that for 50 or 60 years prior. So that stays the responsibility of the city and the county. As that has progressed, as the technology has progressed, in the 1980s we were talking about delivering a phone call, and today we're talking about delivering a text message, we're talking about delivering a video or a picture or a real-time location, or all kinds of other technologies are really starting to impact, most recently, our ability in the last 2 weeks. We received information from a mounted security camera at an HOA that delivered data on a vehicle that had a stolen license plate. It came directly into our center, and we were able to dispatch an officer to make contact with that vehicle off a mounted camera. There was no phone call that initiated that. So at this point, we're starting to discuss, are we funding 911 properly off of the phone bill when there's really many more different avenues to bring those to this place. Cities, there are a handful of cities that maintain their own 911 center. At the state level, probably 40, 50. There's about 100 911 emergency communications districts that receive that direct 911 funding. It's all collected at the state level through the Department of Revenue and then distributed on an every 2-month basis. So those cities, some of them do decide to keep a dispatch center locally. It allows an opportunity for control, for direct discussion, and how we dispatch, how you do things. Specifically in a consolidated environment, there's always opportunities to share a little bit more and coordinate and cooperate a little bit more. That says the bulk of the users want to do things one way or the other way. Obviously, we see a value in a consolidated center like we're functioning with, sharing the resources and bringing all those dispatchers into one place.
Very complicated procedure, and a way that technology has changed over the last several years particularly, is the result that we wanted to have that conversation today. It's not the same that it was 10 years ago or 20, right. And it changes about as fast as we can get the software into operation and the training, right. Then oops, here comes something else that we're trying to get a handle on. You mentioned through initials HOA, which is a homeowners association, right. For people that are watching this. Many times homeowners associations have had to go through the switchboard just like I would if there was problem. Not so anymore.
Sure, no, absolutely. And nobody even needed to be home in this particular situation. It just took this picture of this car as it drove by the camera, and it had this stolen license plate, and we were notified of it, and officers made contact at a market just down the road. It was just amazing.
So, HOAs, as we know them, not all of them have that technology to be able to do that. But the bigger HOAs and that have the resources to be able to electronically get into our system, we're allowing that now.
Absolutely. There's great opportunities and a variety of challenges inside of our dispatch center. Anytime we want to interface or connect those technologies directly to our computer-aided dispatch system, there's typically a cost, and it's typically not a small cost. So we look for opportunities to do that more economically and efficiently. Typically, the easiest way to do that is to a web browser like a Google or a Explorer, whatever that web browser is, which means there's more screens to monitor from that dispatcher. They've got more things to look at than just the phone and their dispatch screen. They've got a variety of internet tabs over here in a different browser, viewing all kinds of different websites that are bringing additional intelligence and data to us.
Several years ago, we built a safety center, public safety center, that's located off of Beasley Drive in the Franklin city limits. But when we built that center, we built that for, as I have often expressed to Bill Jorgensen, who's our director of public safety, and we need to build it to house up to 25 years. I'm not sure we've built it large enough as we continue to grow and with the technology that is coming in. But I do know that you're one person just like I am, and the real work, the real grunt work, getting down into the trenches is done by a whole bunch of dedicated men and women out there.
Absolutely. We've got a fantastic team. There's 54 frontline dispatchers and supervisors spread across 6 different shifts. We usually staff between 8 and 13 people a shift, depending on our heavy or light days. And I'll tell you, the work that's done by each one of them is incredible, and it's there's a conversation we had 3 years ago, which is similar to a conversation we had about 10 years ago, and we saw this consolidation before, that said, when we do this, we really want to look at a caliber of team member, a caliber of employee that we all say, boy, I'm glad I hired when I did, because I don't know that I would have the ability to come in brand new and start to this level. So we continue to raise that bar.
Are there opportunities?
There are opportunities, right. We are hiring for 8 more positions. We're not short-staffed with our consolidation with Spring Hill that occurred in January. There were some vacancies as part of that consolidation. and a couple of new positions that were approved to get our remaining supervisors really focused on the rest of the room. So we're completing some of those vacancies that were when we adopted or were partnered with Spring Hill to provide communications opportunities. So we'll look to hire those in June.
How does one reach out to you and enter? What about training, background, some of those things?
Sure. We do look for folks, honestly, if you're 18 years old and you have a high school GED or a diploma, that's the requirement to start the conversation. All the training to become a public safety telecommunicator, the kind of the newer term for 911 dispatcher, is provided on the job. So once you come and join us, it needs a pretty clean background. I'm not saying you have to be an angel ever in your life, but you have to have a pretty clean background. We partner with a variety of agencies, and one of those is the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations, and they're going to run a background check and make sure that you should and can have access to some of those privileged public safety type information. So once that's done, we'll train you for a year.
So how do we reach out to you? Is there a phone number, a website, or something we can go to?
Sure. The phone number for the Public Safety Center is 615-790-5757, or just the jobs page on the Williamson County website, which is great also. We should have a posting here in the next couple of weeks.
So let's talk about some of the advancements that are occurring. We mentioned the HOA connection. That's a huge step. It may not sound like a big thing to most people, but that's a huge step to be able to interface and get that information directly.
Yeah.
Some of the other things, I noticed one of the local TV channels in Nashville, actually two of them, have expressed some reasons to come out and see you and talk about different things about that are occurring in our 911 center and at our public safety building, not just for them, but throughout our entire county.
Sure. I'll start with the less understood first. It doesn't seem exciting, but it's huge to us. It's an interface, the acronym, because we love acronyms in public safety, is ASAP to PSAP. Really, that's just an automated secure alarm protocol to the primary public safety answering point, our dispatch center. That technology allows monitoring alarm companies, your ADTs, ADS, Brinks, those folks that receive your monitored alarm, to deliver that alarm, the location, the phone number, what type of alarm they're receiving directly into our computer-aided dispatch system without a phone call. Currently, those calls, the alarm operator at their side will make a phone call, perhaps depending on their policy. Some of them will call the homeowner directly and check to see if everything's okay, and if they don't receive a response, then they'll notify us. Some notify us first, and then they start the process of notifying somebody at the location to make sure it's false or not. But those are now coming directly into our computer system without that phone call, which cuts down the delay. We're seeing anywhere from 40 to 60 seconds cut off of our response time because we don't have that process of answering the phone ringing. We answer it. We run through our basic script of questions, where it is, what the types of alarms we're receiving. And then typically, beyond that initial call, so we're already seeing a 60-second reduction in time to getting the help to the right place in the right time. On the back end, there are several other phone calls that are associated with an alarm. If they get out there, the officers or the firefighters, and we determine somebody needs to, there's a broken window, somebody tried to get in the front door, and there's nobody there, we're going to try to make a phone call to get somebody who's responsible for that property to come and check on it. So we have to make a phone call back to the alarm company and request that. The alarm company makes their notifications, and they call us back with that additional information. And typically, the alarm company also wants to know, once the call is done, what officers found, what was discovered out there, how did this call dispose? If it was a medical alert, did EMS transport, those types of questions. So we're cutting out 3 or 4 additional phone calls because all that information continues to be passed across this network inside of almost like a chat message across computers within our computer system, which is fantastic. If we're not tying up our telecommunicators to answer those phone calls, then they're free to answer the other phone calls, and that's just critical.
Well, I'll let you catch your breath there a minute, but you just think about there's a particular advertisement that's been around for years and years that goes something like, "Help, I've fallen, I can't get up." If you can eliminate a minute up to 60 seconds on the front end, and as I get older, I appreciate those things a lot more, and I'm sure many of our listeners that, or if it's a child that has been playing in the tree or on the swing set in the back of the yard, and there's an emergency call. 60 seconds can make a huge difference.
Absolutely.
Huge difference in the pure survival rate, particularly if it's a heart and stroke. We know emergency medical team over and over, it's that first 4 to 7 minutes of a stroke or of a heart attack that makes the difference, whether the individual survives or what kind of condition he or she is in after they have arrived there. It's that time element that our human body can only go so long without oxygen or so long without the blood flowing through.
Right.
And so my hat's off to you and appreciate the hard work that you do. What other things?
The other resource, which is a whole lot more exciting, I think, to the
I don't know. That's pretty exciting to me.
This one's really exciting. We are partnered with a company called Rapid SOS, and this company, this is a free service to the 911 centers, which is fantastic. This company provides the exact location from the device of your cell phone to the dispatch center in real time when you call 911. For about a 45-minute window from the time you initiate a phone call to the time that we disconnect, really after, about 45 minutes from that start, even if we're not on the phone with you, we can get an exact real-time location of your phone, even as you're moving down the road, which is just something that in the last 20 years has not been a reality. The best effort that we could do to find cell phone technology was a triangulated GPS guess coordinated by the 3 closest towers to your location. And if you were outside, all these things factored in that says if you're outside and you're not obstructed by a wall or a building you might be in, we can get a within 150-foot guess of where we think you are. Perfect if you're having an emergency in a field, not so great if you're having an emergency in downtown Franklin and you draw a 150-foot circle. You could be in any one of 3 different buildings. Doesn't tell us if you're upstairs or downstairs. It just says you're in this area. This particular technology shares the same type of technology being used to summon your rideshare on your app or to deliver a pizza and have it delivered to your home. Those pieces, when you put an app on your phone and you agree to share your location with that app, basically the carriers and the phone providers even more so, Apple and Google, those Android and iPhone devices, are sharing automatically your location when you call 911. And that is just real-time, immediate, accurate, and we've seen amazing benefit from it already. Just a quick story to that point. We received a phone call from a woman who 2 seconds said help and then disconnected. We called back. She didn't answer. The information we received on that initial 2 seconds was the location of the cell phone tower that her call came from, but not the triangulated guess of where we thought that she was. She didn't stay on the phone long enough to get that second piece. The tower she broadcast off was just north of the hospital. So at that moment, she could have been in a car going down 65. She could have been in a car going across Highway 96 there. She could have been in the hospital, any number of things. This call 3 months ago would have left us with really the opportunity to tell our officers in the area, be on the lookout for somebody who may be having an emergency, waving you down in this area, and they would drive to hope to see something out of the ordinary. Because of this technology, running that phone number, we identified her specifically inside of a fast food restaurant right there on 96, dispatched officers to that location, and within 6 minutes they were on the scene with that person, and they stayed 3 officers for 50 minutes. Much like in my world, we rarely know how things end, but I know that 3 officers on the scene of a call for 50 minutes lets me know there was something when they discovered it, and that's just amazing to us.
So does that information for all of us that aren't as geeky
guilty.
Is that information automatically on our phone, or do we have to do something, pull up an app?
There is no app required. That was one of the things that has been discussed probably in the industry for the past 6 or 7 years. It says if you dial through this app, if you pull up this piece, and really the 911 sector has said consistently, we have preached and preached for 30 years, dial 911, and we don't want to get out of that rhythm telling people to do something else. First open this app and then dial 911 or take a different step.
Good.
So the private sector has responded and created that feature, partnered with those folks, the manufacturers of the phones, and allowed that to pass in the background without any activity or action on part of the caller.
You do a wonderful job. Are there other things that I've overlooked?
I think that's it. You know, when we think about, and these aren't new, when you think about that value of the 60 seconds or whatnot, we do have inside of our system, we partner, this isn't necessarily new, but it has been in the last 3 years, automatic vehicle location of our responding vehicles. We have an exact location of where they are by GPS. So we're dispatching not just the closest station to your house, but really the closest unit to the house. If your house is on fire and there's a fire truck that just happens to be driving by your house on the way to another location, even if it's for training or whatever, and they're equipped to answer your call and they're available, we're going to dispatch that truck to your house instead of even maybe the normal station, which does make an additional impact when you combine those with the reduction in 60 seconds. If I know 60 seconds faster there's an alarm here, then I'm going to catch this truck as he's driving by your house, as opposed to when they're further down the road and need to turn around. All those things combined just really help us get the right folks to the right place just at that exact right moment.
It's amazing, some of the technology we all kind of, I won't say kick and scream, but technology is a part of our life, and technology in the case of the industry that you're in and the world that you oversee has made a huge difference in survival rate, response time, and with that, better outcomes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Steve, I also know that you're very engaged, not only here at the local level, working with Bill and our ambulances and et cetera, so many things you're involved in, but I also know that you're involved at the state level. You actually sit on the board that helps to make those decisions and hear those discussions, those discussions that changes are needed all across our state, from Memphis to Mountain Home, not just in Williamson County. Williamson County is fortunate that we do have lots of people, but we also have lots of phones, lots of cell phones, fewer landline phones. There's a few of us that still keep the landline, but the majority of people now have gone to cell phones. What are some things on the horizon, if you can share that information, on a statewide basis that we're trying to get implemented?
Sure, we're desperately attempting it. You're right, I do serve at the Tennessee Emergency Communications District Board at the state level, which is a fantastic opportunity. Really looking across the state of 911 in all of our counties, where you have counties that may not have the tax base that we have, or may have the phone subscribers that we have, still have the responsibility to provide that call or that service to the mother who has a child who's choking, who has the adult parent who has their parent living with them and they have that stroke or medical emergency. That same 911 center really needs to have that same level of access to find that caller, to give them the care they need on the phone. So at the state level, we're looking for those opportunities to standardize as much as possible the level of care to the front end. And how do we do that with funding? How do we make those funds available for every county to be able to provide that level of service? There are some opportunities with the carriers as we combine technologies that existed previously. We can reduce the amount of technology that maybe some of the older technologies that we've been paying for. We can kind of grandfather those out, let them go away, and we can take the monies being spent on those to refocus those funds to different levels. It's possible it could require some additional funding on that 911 surcharge level. That surcharge is based on what it was in 1982, and obviously things have changed, and the costs of technology at all. 1982 was paper run cards. You'd write everything down and hand it to the person who was dispatching, and it was all laid out on a desk. And it's more expensive now, but much more efficient.
5G versus 3G, all the new technology helps us.
It's critical.
So much.
Critical. Yeah.
And if you're not into this conversation of 5G, in just a matter of just a very few years, we'll have that technology, which will be faster, more accurate, and much more flexible. Sure. The challenge for us as a county is how do we continue to pay for all of these changes that come down our system. In the government side, our main funding is for public education. And then as our community grows, we're at about 226,000 people now. We are actually in the process of trying to hire people for a census count that is required by Congress here. in 2020. That actually has to be done and on the president's desk at the end of the 2020 term. All of these things that have occurred indicating that our population in our county is going to be around 230,000 people plus, countywide, cities included. We've got about 3 minutes left. How does 911 and Steve and the people you've got, the 50 plus people, how do we keep up with all that?
That's definitely, we're constantly talking to those who are larger than us, right? We're looking at the Knoxvilles, we're looking at the Metro Nashvilles, we're looking out of state, saying, who are those folks, the Cobb counties outside of Atlanta, those folks that are serving a slightly larger population. And I really had a conversation with one of our technology vendors that provides our recording solution for our 911 calls on our radio.
And that's important because everything has to be recorded.
Sure, all the time and kept forever. And we really talked about who were we even 3 years ago when we consolidated with the county and the city of Franklin compared to who we are now as we've added more departments and more recordings, and there may be some things that we need to just constantly be looking on the horizon. What does it look like next? What is the next level? What are honestly, the long term, as we see the 15-year projection in public safety communications, is probably an intelligence and data gathering division that is really looking at managing all those non-phone called information that something came from a camera or whatnot, and posting people in there to gather that data, to review cameras, and then make decisions on what to dispatch and where without a phone call. It's always looking at where we're going and not necessarily where we are.
Well, without question, there's a huge opportunity for your children, my grandchildren, to look at this industry as a permanent source of employment.
Absolutely.
If you have that desire to be in that world that you're in, a great opportunity here. What kind of classes, what kind of school does all this regard? I know we do a lot of training.
Sure.
But sometimes you come equipped.
Sure.
With a little better fundamental as an individual.
Sure.
What are some of those things that are?
We've hired those with criminal justice degrees. We've hired those folks with focuses on public health, maybe emergency medical. They seek out EMT or paramedic school and determine in the process they don't like blood. That's where I'm at. I'd love to help people, but I'm not interested in putting my hands on bloody folks. So we find those opportunities to bring those individuals that have that information. Definitely need to know how to type. Computer awareness, technology needs to be something that you're very familiar with, and that computer not programming, but really computer processing is really, really critical.
We're out of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the hard work that you do for all of us in the county, and above all for our citizens, to make it a better place to live and a safer place. I'm Roger Sanderson. We need to leave now, but we'll see you around the next time. Thank you, Steve, for being with us.
Thank you.
Have a good day.